All right, good evening. Call to order Monday, the 25th of March, meeting of the Corte Madera Parks and Recreation Commission. Please stand and salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rebecca, when you're ready, roll call, please.
Commissioner Elson is absent. Commissioner Kennick?
Here.
Commissioner Budeman?
Here.
Commissioner Rose?
Here.
Vice Chair Charlie is absent, and Chair Miles.
Here. All right, before we start with our agenda, we'll start with time for public comments. For items not on our agenda, members of the public will be given 3 minutes apiece and can either raise a hand or email comments to publiccomment@tcmmail.org. Is there anyone here in person that would like to make a comment? Rebecca, do we have any raised hands? And then we can move to emails.
I believe we do. Let me see if I can get the timer in. We've been having some difficulty with the time, so I need to make sure that's working. All right, I think I have a timer. We do have one attendee with raised hand, and it's Michelle Miller, and I will bring her into the meeting. Michelle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, thanks. I submitted my comments by email earlier today because I wasn't sure if I could make the meeting. So I'd like to read them so you won't have to read my email.
Oh, this is actually just for open time for items that are not on the agenda tonight.
Oh, okay. So will I have an opportunity later?
During item 5A, yes.
Okay, all right.
If you have a comment for the general open time, though, we can take that now.
Mine is specifically about the pickleball courts.
Okay.
So should I wait?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm not seeing any additional raised hands. And while I'm waiting to see if there are any additional raised hands for open time, we did receive one emailed comment for open time. And it is from Mary Hearn, who is asking for senior programs at Corte Madera Rec Center. She says the Surgeon General, NIVIA, released a report about the dangers of loneliness. In the spring of 2023, it is associated with a greater risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety, and premature death. I think that the senior population in our county is especially vulnerable. As an active senior, I would like to see more exercise classes at the Corte Madera Rec Center. I currently attend a monthly Tai Chi class and would like to see this available weekly. If there is no in-person instruction, perhaps staff could find a video. Thank you, Mary Hearn.
Thank you, Mary. Right, if there are no other email or public comments. We can move on to our presentations. So our first is our update from Michelle regarding an overview of the Parks and Recreation Department's budget.
Before she starts, Rochelle has been a valuable member of the team forever, it seems like. She came to us from City Center, where she retired out, snatched her back, an invaluable resource for me as I take on this director's role and my new staff for learning budget, and is always willing to work with staff and answer questions, no great, no small, and always willing to explain and help people understand. So a valuable asset to the team, and I'm super happy to have it with us.
Thanks, Tim, and thank you, commissioners, I chair. Tim has a PowerPoint that's, he's gonna put up so we can help me jog my memory. Also, a lot of post-it notes, if you hear me bring stuff off, that's what it is.
I don't know if you presented here since we moved to the owl.
I don't really have an inside voice, so I'm sure it's gonna be,
Okay, so we've got the extension mic and the mic and the owl.
I'm sure it's gonna be fine. So, hi, I'm here for the budget update, yay! You can, next one, thanks, Tim. So the few things that I'm gonna go over tonight are, the budget, sort of how I set it up for the fiscal year that's ending, this June 30th. What the mid-year review process that I followed to try to make sure we were on target. And just sort of an overview of what we did for the year. I also pulled up the budgets for 2021-22 fiscal year and 22-23 and made a comparison spreadsheet that also has my mid-year checkup on it so that you can see that as well. And then the final thing will be just sort of what's coming up, where we're going with that. Thank you. So I was here starting in 2021 when Ashley Howe went on maternity leave. And that is when I realized that there wasn't really a working budget for the department. And that's just to say that whatever came from the finance director was never looked at by the staff and budgeted the way that I'm used to. So I asked if it was okay if I did it the way I'm used to and worked with the director of finance, Daria, to make sure that I was staying within what she wanted, but also to make it make a little more sense. So the first thing I did was we were opening the childcare center. So I had to come up with a budget for them. And then once she saw that, she was like, okay, well, I'll let you dig into the other things. So, and just to be able to try to build a budget every year, when COVID happened, you sort of had to throw everything out the window because nothing was the same and it's still not the same. When I look back to 2018, which is before, there's not really a rhyme or reason for how things went. And so to even compare 2018 to now, and even with how much we know finances changed, it still is not necessarily a linear process. And of course, math is linear, so that's fun. But I did go back to see, and one of the biggest kind of development areas that I saw back then when I first started was just aligning specific expenses and staffing to programs, because when I got here, it was sort of all of the staffing costs were sort of lumped into the administrative budget. And then everything else looked really healthy. It looked like they were making a whole bunch of money because they weren't paying staff. And as you know, staffing is the biggest expense in a program. And so that was sort of the big first tackle thing. And for this year, kind of the same thing. So what I did to make it a little more accurate in this fiscal year was I moved, the facility rentals were in a random, I forget even what the name, the title was, but it wasn't facility rental. So I moved it into its own account with both revenue and expense budget, as opposed to just having a facility revenue account, and the expenses were shown in administration. The staffing expenses were moved out of administration and under the program. So all the childcare staff is coming out of the childcare budget, all of the, everything. So the sports expenses are coming out of the sports budget. And so I pushed everyone out. Some people are in more than one section. Like we have a staff person who does senior programming, but she also works at the front desk. And so I kind of split her time and showed it under the budget that way, so it would make more sense. And there were very many supplementary expense accounts. So, you know, they had maybe one big childcare expense account, but not a rent part of that account and a, you know, facility repair part of that. So I really tried to figure out like where the actual expenses were so that it made more sense to them when they were spending money, that there was a place for it to come out and then it would be easier to track. And then we also, the Neil Cummins room rentals for the 2 childcare portables and the 2 other portables that we use for after school, as well as the gym, it was all coming out of admin too, so I sort of figured out like what percentage each should get and move that. So those are kind of the big things that happened this year. Next slide, please. So, like I said, the approach that I used to build the budget this year, and obviously, just to let you know, this is very unspecific. It's very much just revenue, expense, and what the difference is over time. So the first two columns are telling you what the account number it is and what account it's for. And so you can see in facility rentals, there wasn't any expense budget for the first couple of years, because that's the thing that I added. And also in there was no recreation operations before. So that's why those first 2 years are empty, and then we pushed it back in, and same with facility rentals. So you can kind of see just a comparison of those. So the approach that I did was just kind of to see what we knew, forecast it out, which is honestly like a little difficult, like I said, because we haven't had a normal year, and trying to get to a zero balance overall was my goal. So if a program like childcare made some extra money and a program like community events didn't, I'm looking at the bottom line. Are we even more than I'm looking at, does each program actually cover its own expenses? And the reason I do it that way is because that's how I only way I know how to do it. And that makes it a little difficult, but it does show you sort of what programs are supporting other programs. So in 2021, 2022, there was a transfer from the general fund to cover a shortfall that we had in revenue. And it was a little bit of catch up from the pandemic and sort of getting things together and changing a little bit of the way we did business. And then at the request of the town council in 2022-23, all the expenses for the director and other operating costs were coming out of our budget. So prior to that, the director's salary came out of the general fund, and now it's coming out of our fund completely. So when you look at the current mid-year review that I did, which is the last 3 columns, it looks like we have a ton of money that we made. And in fact, it's because we collect fees for fall soccer starting in the spring. So all of that, some of that money on June 30th at 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm still at work will be manually pushed over from this year to next year. So it looks like we're making a bunch of money and we're like gonna be rich at the end of the year, but really that's money that's either for summer camps that's after July 1st or soccer program that's not until fall, but that we collect revenue now. And that's been how that's been for a few years. I understand that in the past, we didn't do a transfer of funds that we collected from between fiscal years, because our year ends on June 30th and starts again July 1st, but we collect money starting in like January.
Mhm.
And before they would just go, oh, well, it'll catch up next year. And that's just not, I'm not done. That's not what I'm used to. So since I've been here, we've been running reports, making sure that all the money we collected for in one fiscal year that's for the next one gets pushed over. And that's a manual thing that I literally do on June 30th, starting at midnight. So it's, we're hoping, praying that when we get our new software system, one of the things that we'll do is accrual accounting, which will automatically put it in a holding account. I won't need to be here till 4 in the morning, which is good. So when you look over time, we had, you know, a year where we were doing fine, and then we had the next year that we weren't, and then the next year I project that this year we're gonna be pretty even. And when I did the mid-year budget, like I said, it's showing that we have a big surplus that we don't really have in reality. Next slide, please. And then when you just look at it sort of in a comparison fashion, the reason that there's no light blue column on the 22-24 one is because the idea is we're going to break even at, you know, around 5,000 plus or minus. But on the mid-year review, what the difference was is our revenue is really big, our expense is smaller, and the difference is bigger, but like I said, we have projected costs that we haven't been able to take out yet. And then in terms of future budget things, right now we have an open recruitment for a recreation supervisor position. We hired Steve Detweiler a few months ago, and he's the one that's overseeing the facilities and all that part of the job. In order to have Tim be able to focus on all he continues to focus on, we need a second person that will be overseeing childcare, classes, special events, who knows what else. So we'll have a structure that's more similar to most other recreation departments, where there's someone at the top, a couple of people below that then filters down and down. With the idea that someday I'll actually retire for real. You never know, could happen. So that person will be overseeing the program part of the division, and Steve will continue to do the facilities part. We're trying to get more part-time facility attendants, so that we can keep facilities safe and people safe and doors open. That's a hard position to fill because it doesn't pay much. And the people we've been getting applied are like late high school, early college, and if you're the facility attendant at a party and there's older people who maybe are drinking alcohol, you have to have someone who's a little stronger. So we are training some other folks that are able to sort of tackle those things, but we have a facility attendant always on site, including at the gym when CYO has practices and games. And that's been really good for kind of safety and making sure that the facility is in the shape it needs to be in when we turn it over. So we're still trying to, get those people. And Steve's got a good list now of people who are working for him, which is great, but always looking for more. We were introduced to a field striping robot. We had someone come out from the company, and it's called
I think it's Tiny Robots.
Tiny Robots, and it uses GPS. We program in the dimensions of the field, and it literally in 20 minutes can do a full-size soccer field striping by itself, which is amazing. And it's really, really accurate, and pretty easy to, I could figure it out, which is shocking because technology and I aren't friends, but it's a really great way for us to have consistent fields, for soccer, and also make sure that we can fit everything, which is great. So that's gonna be an expense that's gonna be in the next upcoming fiscal year. We're going out for a new recreation management software system. The system that we've been using for, I don't even know how long, a long time, is sunsetting support. So once that happens, it's time for us to go. That's happening, they said, in 2025 in the spring. So the idea would be we would go out in March or April, get a bunch of people to come do their show about what's what. We can make a decision based on what's good for us, what's good for the town, what the finance director, sort of that integration with the financial system is, and then we'll move to the new system hopefully on January 1st, so that it'll catch us on the fiscal year and be able to take over. We have to figure out things like are we gonna run parallel for a while? Are we gonna train everybody at the same time? How are we gonna do that? And there's a lot of pieces in that. So I'll be taking the lead on sort of the organization of that, since I've gone through that twice already. This will be my third time. So it'll be good. I think it'll make a big difference. The big things that'll change will be the accessibility on mobile phones and laptops, and that thing will be much smoother. It's a much safer system in terms of financial ability, and it'll be doing things that, are gonna help us with reporting and things like that. That'll be really helpful. So that's gonna be a big, huge deal in the next few months. We're trying to, and the new system, one of the things I'm asking for is enhanced accounting of free and reduced rental fees. We have a lot of groups that get reduced fees or free use of the buildings, and to track that amount of money. I did an informal, just kind of out of my head, here's what I think. And it was well over $200,000 in free stuff, free program, free use of the building, free whatever. And so I think it's really important to keep in mind all of those little pieces of things that we're doing to help the community have a cost. And so to track that and be able to say like, hey, like, here's what we're doing, and I think it's important. And then, in accordance with the 2024 work plan that the council has come up with, we, are gonna conduct a review of the current program fees to ensure equity, in participation and accessibility to lower income community members, and just make sure that we're in line with all that as we look at all the program fees for everything, childcare, classes, building rental, whole thing. So that is what's going on with the budget. If anyone has questions, obviously, I'm happy to answer them if I have answers.
Yeah, so for the commissioners, we get to ask questions, open comment, then we discuss anything that is order of operation. Rochelle, I'd love to go back a couple of slides to your, one more, this one.
Yes.
Nope, that one, yeah, the juicy one. I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask you some relatively pointed questions, hopefully for those folks following along at home, to try and dispel maybe some myths and rumors. Okay, first, what is recreation operations?
So originally, when we did the budget, we had recreation administration and that was it. The next year, in 2022-3, we had talked about, can we make an operations budget? And that wasn't something I did, that was something that Daria suggested.
Okay,
So that like more operational things like custodial, those kind of things would be in that budget.
got it.
So
Separate
that's
from
like-
administrative
Yes.
staff. Okay,
Yes.
so those are things that are overhead, right?
Yes.
They
Yes.
support all of those programs, so
Correct.
they are losing money in and of themselves, so the other programs
Correct.
need to make enough money to offset those.
That's
Okay,
right.
so those are kind of, we have to do that.
Yes.
Thank you for your help on the sports programs, because it does look like it's this huge windfall, but there is a timing impact here, so we should expect there to be
Right.
some, we have historically seen a positive difference around $100,000.
Yes.
Year over year, which you potentially would expect.
Well, I mean, originally, the first fiscal year, there was a lot, and specifically the soccer program, because it's the biggest program.
Yeah,
There was almost $200,000 of revenue to the department.
okay,
Last year, there was only 80, and so when we sat down and talked to the staff that is in charge of that program, one of the things I told them was like, 80,000 is not gonna be acceptable. We do a lot of work for them, let alone the work that Public Works does on the fields, which is a lot.
yeah.
So we
Yeah.
really tried to budget so that they would come back up to the about $200,000 level. And right now they're at 3, but we collected all the money for spring soccer, for the clinics and all that. Those are just starting. We haven't seen any really expenses for that yet, because that's coaches and that kind of thing.
Okay,
And then we also have collected for summer camp, so that's happening. And then when fall soccer comes in, it's gonna look even more out of whack. And it doesn't start looking normal until July, when I've already moved all the money over and you see that first July accounting, and then you're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
that makes sense. Because there's 2 payments for the fall soccer, one in the spring and then one in the next.
Right,
fiscal year.
so the one that happens after July 1st, obviously, that just goes right in, and I don't worry about that, but it's the stuff that gets paid, the first payment.
I want to ask one question about facilities rental, and I want to come back to your comment about public works, because I think it's a good thing to bring home. So facilities rental, we lose money here.
Yes. That's 100% normal.
Okay, and is that because it costs us more to operate the facility?
I mean, just in general, because we hire facility tends to be at every event. Every time someone uses the building for free and a facility attendant is there, we're eating $25 an hour.
Okay.
So that's part of it. Part of it is we have agreements with civic groups that get either percentage off or they don't pay anything. We still have a facility attendant there. We still have to pay $400 to have the building cleaned. Like, all of those hard costs are still part of the deal.
Yeah.
Even if it's a free event. So that, I've not worked at I've only worked at 2, but in San Rafael, I don't know that we're at zero balance for
Okay.
facilities ever. It's just an expensive thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last point on, there is nothing on here that says how much money we are spending on field maintenance and court striping and all
Right.
those things. What budget do those live under?
So those don't live under our budget. Those, as far as I'm understanding, they're under RJ's budget for public works.
Okay, so I think that's a good thing to know. So
Mhm.
our budget covers facilities,
Mhm.
staff,
Mhm.
programming,
Mhm.
but not any,
Supply, well, and supplies.
supplies.
Right.
but not building construction.
Right.
Not facility construction, nothing along those
Field
lines.
maintenance.
Not field maintenance is not included there. If we have a surplus, we can pay towards those costs, but it is the town budget that sets those.
Right.
At the recommendation, of course, of commission and staff.
Right.
Okay. I think it's important to look there, because there are some questions that we may not be able to answer for public comment as they come up. Those were my questions. Sorry, if anyone else has questions, comments? No, you asked mine as well. Okay. Anything? Okay, at this time, we will open it up for public comment. Members of the public will have 3 minutes. You can either stand at the podium. If there's anyone in person? No? Rebecca, are there any raised hands?
We do have one raised hand and we have at least one emailed public comment. Just going to turn on the timer. And I will call on Jill Sellers. Jill, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can. Let me just get the timer ready. All right, please start whenever you're ready.
Hi, thank you, everybody. I appreciate all of your work. I think to a certain extent, the question that I'm going to ask was just answered, but in that much of the, facilities maintenance and planning, it sounds like finances fall under public works as opposed to under Parks and Rec. My question that I'm having a hard time getting an answer to is in regards to the facilities master plan, specifically field renovation as it applies to the soccer fields. Who specifically is setting the priorities for that budget? Obviously, there is the master plan, but I'm not sure exactly how much money is being allocated towards the master plan. And then what process are you going through to decide that, and I'm just using this by way of example, that the pickleball courts are going to be installed first versus second, etc. And I ask this question because as a user of Corte Madera Soccer and a representative of that organization, we would obviously like to see the fields redone, specifically the East Field. And it would be very helpful to know what type of budget is being allocated to that, how we can partner with the right people within the Corte Madera structure to support that. And so that's basically my question. I'm just having trouble finding that information. I see money in the packet that's allocated towards the southwest part of the park, but I don't know where that's coming from and who's making those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see if we have additional public
Okay.
comment first, and then we can respond as we're able to. I'm not seeing any additional raised hands, and we did receive one emailed public comment. Oh, actually, I was going to say we received an emailed public comment from Clark Miller, but Clark Miller has his hand raised, so I will let Clark Miller come to the meeting.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yes, this is Clark Miller, board member of Corte Madera Football Club. Thank you, committee members, commission members, for everything you guys do. I had the same question along the lines of Jill's question, which is really just to understand when and how much budget allocation there will be for the items that were recognized as high priorities in the master plan. You guys did such phenomenal work there, went all the way up, got approved at the town council. And it's just a little bit unclear to me as to what the true next steps are and where the decision makers are and what the timing is of the spend of the allocation that is made for those particular projects. So I think Jill said it very well, and I just wanted to second that anything you can help clarify it for us, we would be much appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let me. Right, I'm not seeing any additional raised hands. I'm not seeing any email public comment. So without going too much into the weeds on this, and I can distribute this to the residents that requested further information. The adoption of the town park master plan was a 2-meeting process, and at the second meeting where it was formally adopted, November 7th, 2023. That process also included in the staff report a discussion on how staff anticipated items would be elevated through the Parks and Recreation Commission and all of the other boards and commissions and committees with the respective departments through town council to be discussed in the annual strategic planning and goal setting session. We met with this body in January prior to that January 30th meeting, the council. And you went through the process of reviewing the Parks and Rec master plan, and you chose some items to elevate, one of which was evaluation of the renovation of the East Field. So that was actually approved by the town council for inclusion in this year's 2024 staff work plan, which means that our finance department, our public works director, our parks and rec director will be meeting to work with some companies to evaluate the renovation of that field, and we'll be bringing back a recommendation for consideration by the council that will include various options and cost estimates. And I believe the budgeting process would go from there. Our public works director, RJ Suko, is in the meeting to further clarify that, but also in that same staff report from November 7th, money was already allocated in the 2023-2024 budget for parks and rec related actions. 700,000 of that was toward the town park restroom facility that is due to be installed very shortly. And we had $400,000 remaining, some of which was budgeted toward addressing the deficiencies, the top deficiencies that came out of being identified in the master plan process. And some park improvements, one of which was the new pickleball courts at Town Park and restriping Granada Park for pickleball, because in the matrix from the survey process, the community survey, that was the top facility that showed up through the survey process. It also included $30,000 for fencing for the new skate park refurbishment, which was our contribution to the plan proposed by the Scotty Lapp Foundation. So that is where the new pickleball courts at Town Park were estimated to cost between $100,000 and $120,000. And staff recommended bringing that forward for review and recommendation, and it could be implemented relatively quickly with the remaining allocation of funds from the 23-24 budget. And it was determined to be a near-term top priority action in the Parks and Rec master planning process and scored highest on the program prioritization matrix. So I will send that to the requesters, and I'll see if RJ has any additional information to add to that discussion.
Yeah, I just want to mention that as part of past discussions with Council on Parks and Rec, we did identify from that kind of $200 improvement fund to also put about 50 grand aside for enhanced maintenance. So this is to the soccer fields or turf fields. This really is covers a lot of what we did last year, but then also adds on what we've discussed with the soccer club more recently about additional mowing, additional, I think now we're up to 6 fertilizer, seed, and aeration events, as opposed to 3 years ago we were at 1, and last year we were at, I want to say 3. So that is funded with $50,000 from that same fund for fiscal year 23-24 in our approved budget. Separately, as part of the strategic planning workshops and discussions with council, there is a line item, number 28 in that document, that talks about commitment to begin process of evaluating costs of field renovation, improvements to drainage and grading, and new natural turf. So that is basically we're trying to get off the ground. We've already met with one high-level contractor who this is all they do. I've also gotten contacts for a possible architect who this is all they do, but we probably do have to prepare and request for proposals in order to get that officially up and going. And so that's a timely process. So we have it on our list, but right now we're in the thick of a lot of other priorities. So, but it's definitely on the plan for this calendar year to kind of move forward in some development on the East Field.
So I'm gonna say what you guys said pretty pointedly, just kind of in my own words, that we had in the fiscal year that ends June 30th, 400,000 of unallocated funds that were part of the public works budget that we could use towards facilities for parks and recreation facilities. We are handling deficiencies in the parks. We have increased our maintenance. So we have taken the maintenance of the fields that went up significantly last year. We have incremented that again with some of that money. So we are showing our commitment to that. And we had an opportunity for investing in $100,000, which can sound like a lot of money, but goes pretty fast when we start looking at these things. And so therefore we're identifying what could we do within the next 6 months with $100,000 against the things on our budget. So part of it is a money, time, opportunity decision come into play for what can we do with this money in this time, which is where the pickleball decision or pickleball assessments have come from. I would also say that the Scotty Lott Foundation has moved forward when we start talking about significant budget opportunities in the millions of dollars. Having fundraising support coming from other places helps the conversation.
Thank you, Chair Miles. It may also be worth noting that out of that $400,000, it was split between deficiencies and park improvements, and almost $200,000 was allocated toward addressing deficiencies and ADA issues at our parks and facilities. $50,000 to $60,000 was for enhanced field maintenance program and $5,000 to improve the softball field conditions. And the remaining part of the deficiencies money went toward the new commercial dishwasher at the community center.
Awesome. So
I can elaborate on that. So obviously we know that as part of the facilities assessment, some of the picnic areas are not accessible. We know that we had to take down some trees because they weren't safe. And a lot of the paths were identified as being bumpy and not ADA. So a lot of this work is happening. Some of the paving work on those paths has already happened. And the item later tonight is to give us to start the discussion so that we can know where to prioritize picnic areas. We don't want to put a bunch of money into a location and then later decide that we're going to change the location. So that's really what initiated this kind of holistic concept of this southwestern end of the park. So excited to show that to you and get your feedback. But yeah, it was really just knowing where to spend the money and not spending it in places that we're just going to tear it out later.
Awesome. Thank you, RJ.
I also just want to add one thing to that and all the considerations that you mentioned, Alden, we aligned those with the priorities identified in the survey that surveyed our whole community. So really trying to share the budget to the members of the community who are soccer players, those who are pickleball players, those who are tennis players, those who use the skate park, really trying to spread it out among all community members.
Yeah, thank you. And we are still assessing field maintenance, field upgrades. It's part of the directive as we think about the budget that starts in July, which always confuses me on my taxes.
It's also probably also worth noting that our town manager and our public works director are taking all of that into consideration, and knowing that when you, as your body, elevate items to the town council for consideration for inclusion in the work plan, those larger ticket items like the field enhancement and replacement or discussions would remain. Of course, you would evaluate that every year, but it's expected that that would remain on the work plan for several cycles.
Yes. Awesome. I think that closes. Any more questions, comments, discussions in this group? Number 3A. Awesome. Moving on to the consent calendar. These are items that have been grouped together, which are routine or have been discussed previously and do not require further discussion. They'll be approved by single motion. Any member of the commission, town staff, or public may request removal of any items for discussion. Rescheduling the item will be at the discretion of the chair and the commission. Is there anybody from the public that would like to make a comment about the consent calendar? Emailed or raised hands?
I am not seeing any raised hands, and we did not receive any emailed public comment on the consent calendar.
Awesome. With that, we'll bring it back to the commission. Would anyone like to move to approve the minutes from the February 26th meeting?
I so move.
Do we have a second? I'll second that. Thank you, Lisa. Rebecca, can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Elson, Commissioner Koenig,
Yes.
Commissioner Budeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Rose.
I believe I have to abstain because I was not here in the February meeting.
You watched the movie.
I did, so that counts. Okay, so yes, approved.
Vice Chair Shirley is absent and Chair Miles.
Yes. Approved.
Thank you.
Agreed. All right, now we're moving on to our business items. Review of the conceptual designs and Scotty Lap Town Park Skate Park expansion, proposed pickleball courts and adjacent miscellaneous projects.
Good evening, Commission. So tonight we're going to talk about what we were calling the southwest corner of Town Park. We searched for a name, and I think the southwest corner really summed it up as a very active part of our community in Town Park. So this has come to you before in several pieces. The skate park came before even August 28th. Skate park then went to council on September 19th. Pickleball courts came to you on January 22nd of just a discussion of these separate elements. After the January 22nd meeting, staff worked with the Skyline Foundation to realize there was a spot that could be expanded as a skate park. So the first time you're seeing that is tonight in conceptual design, which we'll present later. It was an opportunity to expand an area that was already paved, that was easy expansion to create a more space for skaters to use of all ages. And tonight we will present that. We will also talk about some of the addressed issues about sound and some noise canceling things that we're looking at for both the skate park and for the pickleball courts. As we started looking at this, we decided, look, this needs to be a holistic approach of this southwest corner. There are a lot of things going on. We kind of did it in pieces. We wanted to bring it back to you to say, look, this is a well-used space. How does this make the most sense so that we can revitalize this with the skate park, with the pickleball courts, with some trees that came down, with some revitalization of areas, some more picnic areas, where basically that we want to get some input and suggestions from you before we hopefully take it to council on the April 16th meeting, so that both Skyline Foundation can go forward and basically start their fundraising and project, and we can start going forward with the pickleball project. Basically, our goal is to complete this in phases. We understand that the skate park and renovation and both the pickleball court, something could be accomplished in a relatively sooner manner. Obviously, the bigger miscellaneous projects are going to be a phase and approach and take longer. But basically, we are looking for input tonight. Nick Cartagena, thank you. Sorry, brand new civil engineer is here. He's coordinated with the landscape architects from WRT to produce this conceptual design of the southwest corner. It is included in attachment 1. Nick, along with Peter Guinness, will basically kind of walk us through this conceptual design and looking for feedback. At that meeting in January, commission really wanted to know, like, how is this going to affect the configuration? How is it going to work? How is the local pedestrian traffic going to work? How is it going to be dealing with the people in the park? Hopefully, in this conceptual design, a lot of those questions are answered, and how we basically reimagine this part of the park and fix some of the other deficiencies we've seen, as I already said, in the picnic areas and some of the trees that came down. A couple of responses that we kind of addressed was the noise issue. So we did, hey, adding pickleball courts, how do we deal with some noise issues? In the design tonight, they'll talk about some possible noise barriers that would be had in the fences to alleviate some of that noise from both pickleball and the skate park. Obviously, we know from the skate park going away from the wood and metal, going to concrete, it's going to dampen the noise. obviously still a concern that had, so maybe we'll talk about it tonight. Again, did our outreach, made sure we got it out to all of the social media posts. Attachments 2 and 3 have the flyers and the A-frames that were out. Now it's a dedicated website, page on our website that basically has kind of the timeline of where we're going, and basically for people give input on kind of the conceptual design. Basically tonight, I'm requesting and staff as the commission review and provide feedback about the conceptual design. We would like, obviously, get some direction from you, and work again with, Scotty Lop and town staff to basically get this on the April 16th meeting as a town park project, to basically get approved and move forward, to get the project done in a timely manner. Do you want me to review this one back again? We've had that.
What we just.
Yes.
What the commission like.
Do you want to redo again where the money came from, or did we just talk about it enough that was?
I think we just covered it.
Okay, I just want to repeat.
Thank you.
Again, this is a work plan, to be accomplished this year, including the infrastructure maintenance, for both the skate park and the pickleball and this miscellaneous projects. Nick, do you want to drive the stream?
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Commission, for having me and allowing me to present. I am the new senior civil engineer in public works, so this is kind of my entry into this field. So I think you have a good background on what I'm here to talk about. It's kind of a culmination of a few different projects. It's the skate park, the pickleball courts, and we're just kind of calling it miscellaneous enhancements that are in conceptual nature at this point. I just outlined a brief agenda. I'm gonna just kind of briefly touch on each project, although Tim did a great job already. And then I'm gonna hand it off to Peter, who is our consultant from WRT, who put together the conceptual design, and we'll talk about that in more detail. So yeah, as I mentioned, this is my name and title, and Peter as well. So I thought just kind of to zoom out a little bit, I wanted to include an aerial so everyone knows the area that we're talking about. And you can see my cursor. So we have the Pixley parking lot right here, the tennis courts, the existing skate park, and the soccer fields kind of outlined here. The improvements that we're looking at right now are going to be the expanding the existing skate park, renovating the entire thing and expanding it just slightly to the south. As Tim briefly mentioned, the existing skate park is constructed out of wood and metal, which is very loud. The proposed skate park that's going in is going to be concrete, so it should be a little bit quieter for the residents. The other area that we're looking at is the, and you'll see it in more detail in Peter's presentation and his conceptual layout. But in this area here is where we're looking at putting the pickleball courts, 2 pickleball courts fenced in just behind the skate park. One improvement that we are looking to install to help with the sound attenuation is putting sound blankets along the new fence that's going to be installed right here. So between both the pickleball courts and the skate park and the residents across the street. One of the design guidances that we've looked at out of Denver recommends that any residents within a 300-foot radius, that there should be some kind of sound attenuation. So that's what we're looking at right now. We have a few products that we're looking at that we hang on the fence that block and absorb the sound coming from these 2 areas here. And on to the next one. A lot of this was covered already. The skate park is generous donation from the Scotty Lap Foundation. The pickleball courts, a lot of this was covered already, but this has been in front of the commission once before, and some comments were received. which is what we're kind of circling back to make sure that we address now. I'm gonna hand it off to Peter, who's gonna cover the conceptual design. And I'm happy to expand when there's comments and questions by the commission or the community.
Great, thanks, Nick. Can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, and it's yours to share your screen.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll just introduce myself and my firm first, and then I'll share my screen. So yeah, I'm representing WRT. I'm a landscape architect. We are planners and designers working out of San Francisco, have a national practice, but I'm pretty focused in Northern California. We really work at just listening to communities and really understanding needs and then strategizing with cities and how to either adapt their existing park systems or help prioritize new facilities. And, I will echo, I think what I've heard already in the community comment, a lot of the pandemic has just changed things and really prioritized the importance of parks, not just for recreation, but really serving for public health reasons. So I appreciate, the balancing of the budget. I think what we're seeing now is cities really step up and say, we need more resources to really tackle kind of the public health needs that we're currently seeing. So I think y'all are not alone in some of these things that are coming up since pandemic and understanding what the current needs are, whether it's pickleball or expansion of existing facilities. So with that, I'll dive right in. I'm going to share my screen and I'll have y'all just confirm. You can see it in a moment. Are y'all able to see my screen?
Not yet. It's just black.
Okay, I'll give it a moment.
Yeah, now I see it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think Nick framed it pretty well, so I won't give any more of an overview, but we were tasked just with really understanding the vision of kind of all these different moving parts in this one part of your park. And I think as these photos demonstrate, this area could also just use a little love. And I think that is, as part of the plans, the master plan, and I think this seems like a really good moment, kind of given the expansion of the skate park and the proposed pickleball court to just really rethink this space and some of the improvements needed, but also just some of the potential. So these are some of the key, I think, kind of takeaways from our site visit and just listening to Public Works and some of the community feedback on this zone that we tried to tackle in the vision. And I'll just kind of quickly go over some of these. So I think just having a more welcoming gateway that helps kind of direct users to the different spaces kind of within this part of the park. Soundproofing is something that's come up that we've heard and have some ideas and solutions for. The restroom structure, which I believe is in plans to replace, but also could just be refreshed and kind of cleaned up a little bit. And then there is kind of this entrance gateway that we're calling it between that restroom and the tennis courts, where some trees have died and the pavement's pretty rough. So just improving and enhancing that zone was part of the vision. Understanding that the lawn, is a really valued by a lot of different users, whether it's the soccer players or picnickers, and we did our best to try to understand those different uses and balance that along with the vision. Improving some of the picnic areas was also something we were focused on, and understanding that some large shade trees had been removed for structural reasons. And so we did some solar studies to take a pass at proposing some upgraded and new picnic area facilities. And then, we worked with the plans we were given for the expansion of the skate park, as well as the location of the pickleball courts. So this is now just a plan kind of documenting some of those potential improvement zones and existing conditions. So you'll see dashed in here is kind of the design and progress zone for the skate park, as well as the selected area for the proposed pickleball courts. Down here is the removed trees that are just adjacent to where the soccer courts are set up seasonally. And we also just noted some of the soundproofing and opportunities for gateway improvements and potential activation and murals. This next plan shows just the major kind of existing circulation through this part of the park, as well as what that would look like with these two proposed facilities, the skate park and the pickleball. And then this next slide is our design vision, which tackles some of these opportunities as well as just constraints that we had seen kind of initially in the photos and that have been discussed. So I'd say the first thing as we're moving in from the parking zone is just thinking about how kind of gateways and entry signage could help direct people into the park and create a more welcoming experience. There's also a circulation element that seemed pretty important, or an opportunity to activate, I guess, this other side of this park. And so we're proposing a new pathway that would kind of wrap around the side of the park. One of the existing entrances to this area would be dedicated just to the skate park. So it felt right to propose a new entrance just to the south of that, and kind of help activate, which feels like a little bit like a dead zone on the other side of the vegetation from the skate park. The picnic areas were really focused kind of around where shade tree and planting was proposed to create a balance of light and shade during the hotter days of the summer. We also understand this lawn area adjacent to the skate park is pretty important and valuable, so we wanted to preserve that while we could and well activate the edges of it. We also are proposing some recreational mounds that stay clear of the soccer courts to the west, and actually would provide a place for families or people just wanting to kind of hang out and watch soccer occur adjacent to it. I understand similarly there's the mini courts on the other side, so I think this trail could help serve and activate when those courts are in use. We also wanted to build off the pollinator garden that happens to the north, so really thinking about kind of climate smart, native valued plant species that could also help kind of create some richness around some of these picnic areas and hangout zones. And then soundproof fencing is being shown on the existing fence that wraps the skate park, and the thought behind that is it would help mitigate noise both from the skate park as well as the pickleball courts shown here. As the residents of concern, as we understand it, primarily are on the side of the park. The other thing is the plaza activation and just thinking about new paving and trees that could go a long way to help activate this space, and improved planting. I think there's a really nice mix of existing shade trees, in some ways even just kind of pruning and cleaning them up for visibility, I think would go a long way, and then improving some of the more eye level kind of ground cover planting to help activate the space. So I think with that, I mean, there's some solar studies here. I guess there's also an initial pass at some of the tree species that we might propose. So focusing on both either native trees or drought tolerant or trees with habitat value, and then really building off of some of the work from the native pollinator garden for these picnic zones. So yeah, with that concludes the presentation. I don't know if Nick or RJ had anything to add, but otherwise we can open it up for comment or questions.
So I'll just add, I think it's already been covered, but I think it's worth pointing out that again, the skate park is funded and has a schedule. The pickleball court, we've allocated some funds for it and we're planning to move forward with it once we have all the approvals. The other conceptual items right here are more just so we have a plan in place to tie it all together. We don't yet have funding identified for it. We don't have a timeline for it. We could potentially do it piece by piece as money and time and resources are available. But this is kind of just conceptual, just like a plan to kind of tie it all together. And yeah, I think that's all I had at this point, and we can open it up to comments.
Let's start with commissioner questions for our presenters, and then we can go public comment and then back to the discussion.
I had one question regarding the ball wall. I know the existing ball wall will be removed for the development of the pickleball courts. There was some discussion or last meeting about could we put a ball wall in on one side of the courts to still offer that access for our residents who use it. I've had some community comments about that. Is that something that was considered at all against one of maybe the, I don't know which direction I'm looking? The one end of the pickleball court that's against the hedges, against the.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why it couldn't. That's an existing retaining wall, so I think it would be a matter of building a new wall out in front of it or just demoing a portion of it.
Just a thought I had in terms of, yeah.
And I think what they're suggesting is where it says on one of these designs where it says like mural opportunity.
Yes.
So it would be kind of that wall. So it would be inside the pickleball
Sure.
court, so behind a key.
If it allows for people to use the space for multi-use, multi-sport.
Yeah. Other questions?
Yeah, just building on that, I know we've received some comments. I mean, I guess the question is, sticking to the multi-purpose sports court concept, are there other projects that have used pickleball courts for, let's just call it not street soccer, but futsal? Is it possible to have non-permanent netting that's still functional that people aren't gonna run off with and vandalize and destroy? I mean, is this a feasible option, actually turning this into more than just pickleball courts and having backboards and set up soccer goals or things like that? I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of the inverse where, you know, pickleball courts are taking over any other surfaces that they can to happen. I mean, it's really just blown up in popularity, and I think from what we're seeing, we don't see it being just a trend that decreases. But yeah, with that being said, I think they are pretty flexible, and I do believe they offer, you know, pop-up options that would expand adaptability for other uses. And given their size, I think that's, you know, they're much smaller size than a tennis court. So that might be the limiting factor, and kind of what else can be played on that surface.
I haven't seen pickleball courts and soccer the same. I've seen basketball courts turn into sport courts where they have like soccer or hockey goals that pop up or something like that. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Depending on what a service you put down that would still be acceptable for both the pickleball players and the either outdoor soccer players who are both would play on there. So I haven't seen it, but it doesn't exist. And it makes it pretty much everything. RJ, have you seen anything multi-court that would have both pickleball? I know they said they sell nicer nets that are still movable, that are expensive, that we would probably not leave out year round because they're expensive. But I haven't seen them before.
Yeah, I mean, I personally have not. That doesn't mean something isn't out there, but I just wanted to kind of bring up some of the background and feedback, you know, that brought us here. I mean, really, you know, it was an overwhelming support for, you know, dedicated pickleball courts. We're able to find a solution for that at a pretty reasonable price. I mean, I think all in all, this project is estimated to be about 130 grand, which is not a lot. You know, when you think about all the other funds that go to park facilities and other things. but I guess it's really could be more of an operational decision that could be discussed at a later date, if truly there isn't activity, constant pickleball activity and there's opportunities for other people to share the space. I mean, I'm sure that's worth considering if that really happens. Till now, we hadn't heard a lot of feedback demanding the kind of multi-use sport, and then really it was just overwhelmingly focused on pickleball.
I think the deal of sport court is you can play multiple sports. Okay, now how often you replace compared to a pickle court, we haven't looked into, but the idea of sport court is you can play multiple in it.
And I also wanted to add another comment so we did get a first draft of this, and it originally had more picnic areas actually I guess an early brainstorm had more picnic areas, kind of this lawn area. And then we just kind of reminded WRT that, there are a lot of, the youngest of the younger soccer groups do practice in there. And so we were able to massage the design and conceptual design and retain that. So we are considering, kind of existing uses and in particular soccer as part of this concept.
Gotcha, thank you. And I just had one other question on one of on this one. Just to clarify, the green circles with the plus sign, is that identifying an opportunity for new vegetation of tree for shade for picnic areas?
Yeah, correct. Those are new trees, the green circles.
Okay, and then are we aware of are there any additional trees that are planned to be removed? Because I know that we've lost quite a few. And I see that the recreational mound area, I think there's still some existing trees there, if I'm not mistaken. Are those to be removed or?
No, all these were the trees that had been removed. So I think the only trees that might want to be considered for removal are some in the plaza area, which are in pretty poor shape. And then there's some smaller trees just adjacent to where the pickleball courts would go that would need to be removed.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Can you clarify for me what a recreation mound is?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry about the silly question. I was like, what?
Yeah, so the thinking was to give the space a little bit of elevation and depth and just a little bit more than just a flat field. And the trade-off, you lose some playing space and some recreation space, but it allows people to throw out a picnic blanket and, watch from a little bit of an elevated position. Just have a better view of the field. And just something a little different, I guess.
And then what would these hangout areas be that are kind of in the yellow?
Yeah, so Peter might chime in here, but we're trying to re-engage or what's the word I'm looking for? We're trying to reactivate the picnic areas. So the idea would be eventually new picnic tables and facilities like that. And then the hangout area, I think it's decomposed granite, so just something different than lawn that allows people some space to congregate and to.
Is that like that black, like a retaining wall that you sit on kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then,
Yeah. Just real quick to build on that, we're seeing that pickleball is a much more a social sport. There's a lot of queuing and just kind of hangouting that happens. So that was the intention for having this adjacent hangout space, and then I think giving an additional one to the soccer courts, and then a more intimate one. And it would be a little bit different than the picnic areas in that it might not be picnic table seating, but just more informal forms of seating for small groups.
And I want to add a couple comments. First, I want to give credit. It was actually one of the folks from the soccer community that said a mound would be nice so people could sit and watch the soccer courts. So I think it's a great idea. And then I think, maybe Peter and his team already had that in mind, but I did share that feedback with them, and I think it blends in well, and I could see it being used for, several different purposes. And then also, just want to remind everyone that the state has basically mandated that we remove ornamental turf. So I did ask WRT and their team to be very thoughtful and deliberate about, where we retain turf and make sure that if we're going to retain it, that it's going to be used for actual utility as opposed to something we would just look at. Otherwise, we're being asked by the state, or being told by the state to remove ornamental turf.
One more question just on your vision for the picnic areas. I think it would be very nice to have kind of clusters of picnic tables versus just those standalone ones that we kind of have right now and like one lonely looking grill. Is the idea that we kind of fill it out a little bit more with multiple picnic tables and a grill and enough trash cans and everything around there? Or am I getting way ahead of ourselves here? Is this something we discuss way down the road?
That's not in this budget.
I think that's definitely our vision is to have a variety of different picnic areas so that you could envision a party, happening down to just a small family.
Okay.
I think at a minimum, we would be looking to put back equivalent amount of picnic spaces, but certainly if it's a priority to increase that, I think there's probably opportunities here to make that happen as well. I mean, I could see this already being if this gets built, a pretty popular place for people to have birthdays and stuff.
Right, let's go to public comment and we can bring it back for commission discussion. Do we have members of the public here in person who would like to speak? Please come join us at the podium.
Okay, should we leave that up to reference or should we stop sharing and I can just have the timer on my computer and let everyone know when they have maybe 10 seconds left?
I think it's good to have this up.
Okay, leave it. Feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm George Silvis. I'm U.S. Ambassador for Pickleball in Marin County. I'm sort of the pioneer who started all this chaos. Wherever you see pickleball courts, I probably had something to do with getting them put in from here to Nevada. I started the first program at Hamilton, which happens to be a tennis court, and they actually had soccer there for a while. They forbidden soccer because what happens with the soccer ball, it goes through the fence and it destroys all the equipment out there, including the nets and the rest of it. So having, just you guys were talking about, having pickleball and soccer on the same field doesn't usually work out too well. It's going to destroy the pickleball nets as well. So that was one thing that I saw there that needed to be talked about. Hitting wall. I've always said, wherever I go, why haven't they put just a piece of plywood up here and hit against it? And you can do that anywhere. You do that on the tennis courts. I was thinking you're doing the skate park. I don't know how high the wall is, but you could extend that and put a hitting wall right off of that. Putting a hitting wall on a pickleball court, there's a lot of people, a lot of my friends that I taught pickleball to that don't understand they aren't 20 years old anymore. So they go diving after a ball. And if there was a solid wall there and they hit it, it would be very damaging and who knows what kind of lawsuit you would have. So having that probably is not a good idea on the pickleball court where people can run into. I went out and measured everything the other day and I looked at the wall and thought, whoa, somebody runs into this, somebody's gonna really get hurt. And I'm glad you guys are taking that out. So hitting wall may be on the outside of it or even a wooden part on the inside, but I see tennis players. I'm not always just pickleball, I do tennis too. And he was out there, I saw him this last weekend hitting against the wall. We need something like that for the tennis players. They want to come out and hit the ball just like we do. And sometimes they don't have a partner, and having a hitting wall somewhere, maybe in one of those areas where you have that mound where people are standing, and I don't know how big those mounds are, but maybe you can put something in there for the tennis people and pickleball players.
You have 30 seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry.
30 seconds left.
30 seconds. What else was real important? I would love to know the dimensions of what they have planned for the length and width of the courts, because Ernie's and around the post weren't that popular when I started 10 years ago. Now they're doing all kinds of strange shots that they need more room than what they recommend 30 by 60. And I think if you went 34 by 60, you would be fine. Commander?
You're perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, So I can help you with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Is there anyone else?
I think we have some raised hands. Anyone else from the?
Oh, we do
in-person?
have some raised hands.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, we'll do our in-person people first.
sure. Hi, my name is Jerry Gross, longtime resident, first time caller. I've never spoken to one of these things before. I live on Pixley Avenue. And thank you for all the work that's gone into this. I was glad to hear, particularly I'm kind of late to the process of all that's going on, but I was glad to hear that sound abatement is, has been thought of, and that eventual tree planting has been thought of. Thrilled to hear about those things. However, when I look at the actual design, I'm concerned about the placement of the sound walls. For one, I and many residents live not directly on the opposite side of the walls that are shown there, which are more towards like where the post office is, let's say. But actually, if you drew a line from the pickleball courts across the tennis courts and towards the Pixley and Redwood area.
Mhm.
Plus, I'd like to point out that just about all of the residences in that neighborhood are second floor residences. Second floor and starting to go up a hill once you get to the other side of Redwood there. And sound is not linear, as math is. Sound is going to travel up and above, and the farther away from the courts, the sound walls are, the less abatement they're going to provide. So I would encourage as much as possible for walls to be brought in to really isolate the sounds of there, because the way I see it, and having lived there for 20 years now, trees going, and I hear you talking about some trees in that little plaza area between the skate park and the tennis courts. They may be going to. Every time something goes, we hear it more. Sound issues are a big problem in that neighborhood. They're getting worse. I'm glad to see the thought that's going into the design here, but I just want to encourage as much as possible. And like I said, in particular, I see the distance of the sound walls away from the court being pretty much non-effective to someone who lives in that neighborhood like me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Could you repeat your name, please? For him?
Your name is Jerry Gross, Gerry.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks.
Okay. Should we start?
Let's do it.
The online attendees. The first attendee I will unmute is Jill Sellers. Jill, feel free to unmute. And I'll start the timer, and I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
Thank you. I don't think I'll need that much time. Hello, everybody again. My only comments on Peter's plan as presented here, which I really think need to be brought into consideration, especially if this is a staged build out. So it needs to be, I guess, acknowledged sooner rather than later, is you can see that the limit of work area, let's say, as you look at the page below the recreation mounds, is in fact creeping onto what are referred to as soccer courts. And what's important there is that the soccer field cannot move. As you know, on the far side of the soccer field, you're dealing with, in fact, a mound, and you're also dealing with the existing basketball court. And it's already very tight to get a field in there that's big enough for a 9v9 game, which is for the younger kids, and extremely tight to get enough space for a game for 11v11, which is a more standard field size. And until the East Field is highly renovated, the program is very dependent on the West Field. And literally a matter of inches makes a big difference, because beyond the edge of the quote unquote court, we would call it a field, you do need a couple of feet so that players can throw in the ball, et cetera, et cetera. So as the parts of this that are going to happen earlier begin to happen, perhaps these paths being put in or whatever it is, that needs to be really acknowledged. And perhaps some of these, like the path near the tennis court, just scooches over a little bit. And I would say the same exact thing on the left side of the screen, where the fields that we call G and H are. It shows them quite a bit over, but they actually back up almost completely to the existing bank of trees that divides the existing ball wall court from that space. So that needs to be brought into consideration as well. And thank you for allowing my comments.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, the next attendee I'll bring over to speak is Sarah Vigil. Sarah, you should be able to mute.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for tonight and everything you guys have done. Jill mentioned a lot of things. I just want to echo some of what she said, but also I not only represent, the Recreation Corte Madera FC Soccer Club, but Soccer Kids, which is the program that was mentioned that plays right in that area, grass area that's currently there by the skate park. And I guess my concerns are, that program sees and caters to 500 plus families a week in the Corte Madera Larkspur area. And it's going to eat into the grass space that's used, which is already limited for those children. Plus having pickleball, that I don't think there's a fence there or anything to block pickleballs from flying onto the grass. And soccer balls flying onto the pickleball courts. I don't know that they can coexist at the same time. And with the other soccer programs and other sports things that go on all the other grass, I fear that program, who's been here for 20 plus years, catering to the families in the community, is going to be hindered. And it's going to be sad, because these are, the 3-year-olds in the community all the way through the 7-year-olds. So that's a concern of mine. And then to echo what Jill said, the fields look like they're not properly placed on this map, in that some of this design will encroach upon them. And as you guys know, we use every inch of, grass available to us when it's playable at Town Park, for the soccer programs that are there. And then additionally, making this some sort of multi-use space with sport court, because pickleball can't be played in high winds. It can't be played in rain, but a sport court could be used for other things, other sports that want to practice that can play in those conditions. There are things like removable nets that can wheel away, and nets wouldn't get ruined if it was another sports, opportunity to play on that. So those are just some of the things that, I wanted to point out, from kind of the Soccer Kids side of it, the Corte Madera FC side of it. And we've been part of the community for a very long time, and I would hate to see it impeded upon and hindered. That's it.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Okay, the next attendee I will unmute is Michelle Miller. Michelle, you should be able to unmute.
Hi.
Hello.
I appreciate all the planning going into improving the town park. And my comments are specifically related to noise concerns. I live across the street from the town park on the southwest corner, and I have for the past 34 years. When I moved here, most of the noise came from the fire station across the street from where I live, and this was expected. Over the years, the noise level has increased exponentially. On a regular basis, in addition to the fire station sirens, there's increased noise from traffic, sports teams at the park, which includes whistles, yelling, and screaming, pickleball. I can hear the popping sound of the rackets when they contact the ball loud and clear at my home. Skateboard park, amplified noise at the town park. And even though this is not allowed, it goes on every weekend during the summer. The post office, events at the community center, and ongoing construction. And now the town wants to add more noise pollution by adding designated pickleball courts. I am opposed to this addition. I think it's important that the decision makers in this understand that it isn't just about adding a few courts. It's about yet another addition to the many noise polluters that we already have to endure and that have been added already without our consent. Town Park is in a residential neighborhood and not in some remote location. The noise detracts from our quality of life as homeowners and residents of Corte Madera, and those of us who live near the park should have a say. Since it appears this is already moving forward, at the very least, I request soundproofing on both the south and west sides of the courts, which are the sides closest to the residents. I'm also understanding the north side could use some soundproofing too. I'm learning about that as well, and I can understand their concerns. I don't understand why only the residents to the west are being considered in this current design. Additionally, I have a request that the town consider reducing the hours the park is open by closing at 9 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. to give the residents an earlier break from the park noise and light emitted from the tennis courts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, and the next attendee I will unmute is Patty Stolier. Hello, Patty. You should be able to unmute.
Hello, thank you for calling on me. Someone wanted to know what the purpose of the recreational mound was, and anyone who's seen a toddler learning to run knows that you go up the hill and back down the hill on the other side, and that's what the recreational mound is for. But I was a little bit concerned about noise from the skateboard park in this cluster area for the picnicking and for the hangout areas. I've been near the pickleball, near the skateboard park, and it is quite noisy to hear the wheels going back and forth. And I just wonder if maybe you do need to consider more sound walls so that you could sit there and have a picnic and not just have the sounds from the pickleball and the skateboard and the tennis courts. So I'm all in favor of a lot more picnic areas because it's a wonderful park and we're very, very fortunate to have it. It is far more than a soccer field. I would hate to see the sign be put up that says soccer field and a couple other things. So please, please consider the totality of the park and the totality of the people that live here. They're not all soccer boys. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, Patty. Okay, and the next attendee I will unmute is Michael S. Michael, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, especially the people who are open to looking at multiple sport uses for that area. I'm actually a PE teacher at local school and teach pickleball to about 150 kids a week at the moment. So I'm a big fan of pickleball and I play it myself. But I also know when you can't play it, when it's very windy and we have to pivot. And I was out in the park tonight and I see there's a lot of people playing pickleball in the existing tennis courts. So it would be really nice if we could make that new space flexible. And I appreciate all the thought going into it. But I know there are net solutions that would be good for that space that can be removed, and poles that can be removed. And there is a lot of sport court manufacturers out there that provide flexible spaces for pickleball and basketball and soccer to all mix together. So thank you for taking the time to look into this, and I look forward to hearing an update.
Thank you, Michael.
I am not seeing any additional raised hands. We do have some public comments that were received after 5 p.m. That were not uploaded to the website in time, or actually after 4 p.m. that were not updated to the website. So I can read them now. The first one is from Clark Miller, who says, oh, I should start. Dear Parks and Rec Committee members, I am writing to request additional information about proposed pickleball courts at Town Park covered in item 5A. I understand from the staff report that the proposed design is fully funded. Can you please elaborate on the amount of funding and timing of the funding approval? While I support adding pickleball courts to Town Park, I do want to understand the funding process for this project and also to understand if there are multi-sport surfaces which could enable the court space to be enjoyed by multiple players and users / activity groups. I think the skate park design looks terrific, and I understand that a component of the project is fully funded through separate philanthropic giving, which is amazing. Best regards, Clark Miller. The next one is from Enrique Allen, who says, hello, I'm a local Corte Madera homeowner and support both the proposed skate park and pickleball courts. I often play pickleball with friends and family of all ages at our town park. I encourage the commission and WRT Design to consider adding futsal goals to the pickleball court. This would not interfere with the ability of people to play pickleball. Futsal is a type of soccer played on hard surfaces all over the world, and there are examples of multi-use courts like in San Francisco. Although tennis and pickleball are popular, the town park tennis courts are unused for the vast majority of the day. Adding futsal goals, which cost very little, would increase the utilization of the new proposed court, enhance the features of our town park, help reduce the maintenance on the grass fields as people could play futsal when the fields are too muddy, and could even generate revenue from more reservation bookings. I'm sure many of the local soccer teams would be supportive of this, as futsal is proven to accelerate the skills development of soccer players. I'm happy to assist with generating additional support for adding futsal courts to the plan if the commission is open to considering. Thank you. Next, Gabby Ronick, who says, dear council members, from my understanding, pickleball courts have been fast-tracked as a top priority for the town of Corte Madera. For years, soccer and baseball have been asking for improvements on their playing fields. To no avail. If indeed the pickleball courts will be put in, can we at least have it on a multi-use court that can be accessed for soccer and futsal courts and volleyball use? This would allow for more multifunctional uses of the court. The current tennis courts are already being used as pickleball courts and tend to be used in the peak hours of 9 to 1. Having a multi-use surface would allow others and children to enjoy the use of the courts in the afternoon and throughout the winter when our fields are closed. Please take that into consideration before you go through with the funding for one sport only. You would be excluding a large population of the town who would also like to access the courts as well as a multitude of other sports. Thank you. And then we have one final email that came in, but it is a repeat of 3 other emails that the commission received. I can read, I think it would be longer than 3 minutes, but I can start reading it if you would like. There was I think I'll just read it. For the Monday, March 25th, 2024 Town of Corte Madera Parks and Recreation meeting agenda, I ask the following considerations be considered when deciding the path forward for the new pickleball courts and the adjacent miscellaneous projects. 1, the area that is being proposed for the new pickleball courts is currently an area that is used for many recreational sporting activities. For example, the ball wall is used frequently by lacrosse players, soccer players, tennis players, and individuals performing fitness routines. The grass area next to the ball area is also an area that drains well and is being used frequently by soccer kids, Corte Madera FC, and by other town of Corte Madera recreational activities during the winter months when other areas of the park are unusable due to poor root zone layers and drainage infrastructure. Therefore, I would advocate the area being proposed for new pickleball courts be a multi-use area that can be accessed by the wider community. The pickleball nets could be portable, allowing the space to be used by other community members when demand for courts is low or if the weather is not conducive to playing pickleball. The court surface should be suitable for multi-sport use in the winter months when the rest of the park is unusable for other sports and recreational activities. especially since there's already an existing pickleball area with lights enabling pickleball playing community members the chance to play pickleball for a far greater length of time than other members who prefer alternative forms of recreation. Number two, I would also like to know if a use study has been conducted to see if the new pickleball courts are the best use of town funds. 2 existing tennis courts are currently being used for pickleball. I've witnessed several pickleball games take place between 9:30 a.m. and 11:30. But there's always space for more games to take place. In the afternoon, I've witnessed the courts being vacant or underutilized after 3 p.m. for several months in a row. In addition, the tennis courts have lights, making them useful for longer periods of the day, yet a lack of light still restricts other sports participation from taking place. Therefore, I would suggest reformatting one of the existing tennis courts and utilizing existing lights would better serve the community as opposed to taking over an area that is used for multiple uses and restricting the use of this area to one sport. And 3, I would also like to understand how the pickleball court development appears to have been fast-tracked or moved to the top of the priority list. The soccer and baseball community have been regularly attending town facility master plan meetings for the past 3 years. We understand there was a small group who wanted dedicated pickleball courts. However, athletic field improvements were identified as the most important item to households with the most recent master plan survey. There was a significantly larger percentage of the population who wanted all weather sports fields, improved grass sports fields. Yet we've not heard an update on the plan to fix the east field at the park, including grading and irrigation, or an update on the drainage and soil zone improvements for the west field. I would appreciate it. The commission members or staff could publish a full facilities master plan upgrade timeline with an estimated completion date for proposed projects. For the members of the community that attended many meetings and completed surveys can follow the progress of each of the projects. And that letter was submitted by several people. Okay, and that was 3 minutes.
And then, do we have any other comments?
Oh, I have one more hand raised from an online attendee. So I will call on Amy Lapp from the Scotty Lapp Foundation. Hello, Amy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the Parks Commission and staff and the community for being so supportive of our skate park project. I promise we're going to bring a really amazing amenity to this community, and we're so excited about the design process and the outreach that we've gotten from the users of the park. And I just want to say thanks for your support, and I look forward to working with you all moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay. Lots of things for us as a group to discuss. I think we talked about it a little bit in the last session when we first started talking about pickleball courts, was how well is the ball well used, and not everybody has someone to play with. And we talked about the fact that we would be potentially losing access to something that is used and we're not replacing it. And recognize that that is the area of grass that is the driest through most of the year. It's kind of interesting to hear a lot of the comments that we got today about kind of multi-use of sports and thinking about like the basketball court. Do we have we thought about trying to use that for more than just basketball? The actual existing tennis courts, being able to pull out the nets, the poles to the nets. Yeah. So, I mean, because you can't pull out the nets because the poles are a problem. Like, to think about that from I know we run out of gym space very quickly in the winter for those kinds of sports where people want to play. So I think that those are all really interesting things that we should consider and think about. I think for this group, I think we should talk a little bit about the existing ball wall space, and kind of where I see is like, we have this opportunity to either add 2 pickleball courts and extend the skate park, keep the skate park roughly in its current footprint and add 1 pickleball court and keep a ball wall, or some other combination thereof. Potentially, if we're keeping the current existing, taking away some of these picnic tables so that we have more lawn in that space. Because I think it will be, when you've got tennis players playing and pickleball players playing and skateboarders skateboarding, that is gonna be not a fun place to picnic, but maybe a great place to wait to go do one of those things. So those are kind of the thoughts that I had as we were coming into this. I'm just curious what you guys think.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, a lot of great comments. I think a couple things definitely jumped out. I appreciate Sarah from Corte Madera FC pointing out field dimensions, because that did actually come to my mind. I think a lot of the overlays on here might be incorrect quite a bit, specifically with what we call the mini courts. I've coached many games over there, and it is very, very tight on that side. So I think maybe just putting a little bit more time into figuring out what exactly might overlap, especially if we do kind of continue, the project down there on the recreational mound side. I think the recreational mound side is actually a pretty cool idea. It would also fit, if you are curious what it looks like, the softball field actually has that. So people watching the baseball and people are picnicking out there, it works out really, really well. I think it is, considering the amount of comments that we've had on multi-purpose, I understand that there's, some safety issues with that. I don't know anything really about that, but I think that there is a pretty strong demand to see if we can use it for something else. What that does to the budget, I know we're set, we've got kind of a set budget that we can consider, even if we do scale and move forward, but I think it is worth looking into it to see if there are ways to accommodate even something as small as having the, removable nets. That's an easy, fix to do. And I don't know about the painting or the actual surface, if that material changes with that consideration, but those are things that just kind of jumped out for me. But I appreciate all the comments, learned an awful lot of what people are really looking and hoping for.
I agree. I very much appreciate the community involvement and outreach through all this. We're in a difficult position. We want to come up with the best solution for our entire community, and we have to make those decisions based on the data we have, which is from the survey, from reaching out to all aspects of the community. And I keep trying to come back to that and considering the different options. Ultimately, not everyone can win. So yes, pickleball is being played on the tennis courts, but then tennis players can't play on the tennis court. So it's not really a dedicated space. But wait, if we want the lawn for picnicking, but we also want it for soccer, we can't make it work to everyone's desire, although we'd like to. I do think if there's a way to, moving forward with this, in putting the 2 new pickleball courts with the expansion of the skate park, if there's a way to put a ball wall somewhere, because we are taking away that amenity that is used and used by many different sports. I think that's an important consideration. And like you mentioned, I'm sorry, I don't remember your first name. It could be somewhere else. It doesn't have to be right in that. There's a lot going on in that little corner, but just something to consider for an amenity that is currently there, that we're not here to take things away. We want to enhance it all. So I think that this is a smart design. It maximizes the lawn, plus accommodating pickleball, plus the skate park, plus the noise reduction. We're really trying, and I think we're moving in the right direction. So
I don't have anything additional to add. I think for me, it's the making sure that the dimensions of the soccer fields are correct in the rendering, and so we can actually see what the overlapping areas would look like. I don't know if we need to talk about all the noise concern stuff. That just seems like a resounding piece of feedback. Not sure how to have this discussion, but it feels like.
Yeah, okay, so I just want to clarify. So it sounds like, I put out this proposal of let's not actually expand the footprint of the concrete and have 1 pickleball court and keep 1 ball wall, but a smaller skate park. So what this would look like is, this is the existing ball wall right here. We could make this a pickleball court, this a ball wall open space, multi-use. And we'd have our existing footprint of the skate park is direction we could give to staff as one way to have less change here. We'd have only 1 pickleball court and we wouldn't have quite the expansion of the skate park. Is an option we could ask staff to go back and look at.
But for what purpose? Simply to.
It would give you a dedicated pickleball court, and it would give you a ball wall space that is entirely usable and not behind a gate or a key. anytime we can put a ball wall inside the pickleball court, but those will be behind a gate and key, so it's
Yeah,
not
or
free
elsewhere,
access,
yeah.
right? So, I think that is an option. I wanted to get the kind of feedback from you guys is like, where, if it's worth us going back and asking them to prioritize, to like do a second look into the other side? Or what are the priorities that we want to make sure we maintain? So like certainly the soccer fields that are the full fields in existence need to maintain. We could maintain a bit more of this lawn space by not putting new picnic tables in that upper corner. We can have one pickleball court and not grow this.
My fear is that that doesn't really accomplish the goals. Oftentimes pickleball is played with multiple courts going on at the same time, multiple games. And it would, if I can imagine the design, it would limit the ball walls, but it would sort of just halfway do all the things, but I really think we should do it fully if we're gonna do it, personally, it's my opinion.
I also just want to throw this idea, and I know it overlaps and might actually be on the public school grounds, but Neil Cummins Blacktop does have a double-sided wall that definitely needs repair and improvement. During school hours, obviously, that's not permitted. After hours, it's kind of open to the public, so it is a ball wall there that is underutilized.
It's not a great tennis spot. It's
Yeah, I mean, it's
ground is
smack in the middle of
flat,
everything.
yeah.
I'm just saying it is there. I just don't know the accessibility issues with it, and it's pretty far removed from everything.
Public Works Director has his hand raised.
Oh, hi, RJ.
He's back. He'd be the one. Oh, you're muted.
There, yeah, thanks for letting me
Oh, you muted yourself again.
I think he froze.
help a little bit with this and that. So we are 90% designed on the double pickleball court, kind of based on our last discussion here with with the Parks and Rec Commission, as well as a follow-up discussion with council. I think the way I view, I think I mentioned this before, the multi-court, that's kind of more of an operational. I think, we can look at ways to have flexibility with how we build it, but I think operationally that would be another discussion for probably a later date. But we are here, I just want to remind everyone, we're here specifically to basically get final approval for the skate park footprint and the pickleball courts. Everything else that you see here, this is the first draft. We can massage this and we'll be back multiple times before really anything gets even considered for implementation. And yes, the way the path is there, so close to the soccer field, that that is an oversight, and we can adjust for that. We do not intend for that space to conflict with the soccer area, so we'll make adjustments to that. But yeah, as far as the ball wall, I was trying to remember how many people made the comment. I heard there were a couple. It wouldn't preclude it to add it at a later date. It's not currently part of our budget. It doesn't mean that maybe council would add it, but at the same point, it's not something that I see as being significantly more costly to add at a later date if the demand is there. That helps.
Thank you.
And keep in mind, right now, we don't have any rules for if we do have a dedicated pickleball court. We have to obviously come back to you with some rules of how that affects tennis and pickleball, and maybe we don't put locks in pickleball courts. I don't know. That was just my first step when we do tennis courts. But that's also that we brought back. We have to figure out these rules of how it's going to work, if what is priority where, and all those kind of fun things. So that'll come back to you at some point. But right now, I think we said 8 feet was what I think we said the height of the pickleball fence would be around 8 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. There is a fence between the intended between the pickleball courts and that lawn space, somewhere between 8 and 10 feet.
Okay, so I'm not hearing a lot of excitement about having everything and just doing everything just a tiny bit, kind of, okay. I wanted to put that out there. But I do think we have a multi-use challenge that we don't necessarily have to solve with this design, but we should make a plan to figure out how to do more multi-use, whether it's a basketball court or the pickleball courts or the tennis courts. We've got options potentially. Let's think about it.
So it seems like the objective of this discussion is, are we giving our final recommendation for council for the location of where the building will be? And we can further discuss any future materials used,
Yeah.
multi-purpose issues. We don't have to make any decisions, I guess, today.
Right, so you've got,
Well, I do want to chime in because we're 90% designed. The current design is to, if we were to build the pickleball courts in that footprint, would be to come in with concrete. It's really the only material that will be able to control the grades to get it to properly sheet drainage.
Okay.
And then it will be, it can be painted, a number of different colors. Similar to when we did the basketball courts, there was kind of some options there on what colors. So that could certainly come back. But I don't think there's a whole lot of options on this first go around in terms of court surface type.
Sure. But RJ, things like being able to remove the removable nets versus in-ground poles that are holding the nets. Is
So
that still?
we can look into what I would call sleeves. So you have kind of a open pipe sleeve in the ground that could receive either a, different types of nets and whatnot. I imagine there's something there, but I can't say for certain, but we can look into that to at least give the option later and flexibility to have those kind of joint uses. But and I really think that's just, like I say, an operational discussion for a later date, as opposed to something that has to be solved now. I mean, I think we're looking for confirmation to build the, pickleball courts, and if later they're underutilized, then certainly they could be
Adjusted.
adjusted. And if there's consistent demand for the ball courts, we could add that in later too. So.
And then in terms of soundproofing, is that something we need to plan today? Like, we wanted to recommend extending soundproofing to the tennis courts as well. How more of that?
We can do a little more technical work on it. Really, there's calculations on this, and we can take in the feedback we heard and apply it. But yeah, it does, I saw the one gentleman say, it does dissipate kind of like out in a spherical way. And so, definitely we'll consider that and look at the, what the calculations are on the sound attenuation.
We can't stop it altogether, but we can do a bit more. Any other questions or discussion? All right, so we need to make a motion and a vote. Yes, on this?
You can, if you wish to take a vote, it's just direction to staff.
Okay.
More than a vote. The request was to review and provide direction to staff.
Okay.
The question is whether or not the commission is presenting a unified recommendation, or if there's some split decisions that we need to note these things in the town council report that we'll take to council. So they would be interested in knowing if the commission was in agreement, if there was a split recommendation, that kind of thing.
Can you summarize what the recommendation was again?
Yeah, so I think for the majority of the commission, the expanded skate park, the two courts, the two new pickleball courts is approved, sounds so formal, but like is supported with concerns around kind of these extra walkways and mounds being problematic for the existing major pieces of the soccer field. And we should talk about how much of that lawn space we want to make picnic area versus free open grass. And we need to consider as much as we can about the soundproofing, not just directly to the west, but also southwest, north, and southwest, north, and west. Yeah, all the spaces that way.
I think ultimately maximizing, we want to encourage maximizing the soundproofing as much as possible.
Yeah. And I think that for town council, it's, for them to know that we are missing out on this ball, this kind of wall ball, multi-sport place that is not behind a lock and key is a thing we are notably taking away from the public. And that gives me, I think maybe some other people, but me especially, some concern that we are removing a feature of the park that is utilized, and it is, this out there today, and it's like somebody just coming up, with their dog and hitting a couple balls with their pickleball against the wall. I mean, it's a pretty unloved piece of equipment that is widely used for soccer, baseball, lacrosse, all of the sports. And no comments just doesn't do it. You can't throw a baseball against that wall. I wouldn't hit a tennis ball against it because it would end up somewhere else very far away. So I think that is my concern, and I don't have a good answer for that, how to solve that. Having it in the pickleball court is an answer, but it's again behind a key, so it's not free.
We did it. It doesn't have to be on a key. I mean, we can literally, we bring back saying, we're not going to lock pickleball courts really open public, so that somebody could.
Yeah.
But then depending on placement of pickleball, thinking where a ball wall is, you incorporate a fence, use it down on walls, things that, we have to come back with. Or recommend council say, look, the ball wall is important. Is there a way we can incorporate design? You could share a wall or something where you can still do those things and still play pickleball if you want to.
Yeah. Really appreciate the elegance of these designs. It's very exciting to think about the space having all of these elements or pieces of these elements. So I'm very appreciative of staff and our supporting staff getting there. Thank you all.
Yeah, did a great job. Looks fantastic.
Did you guys get what you needed from us?
That was an excellent summary. Great synthesizing.
Not always known to be concise. Okay.
We'll let you know when it is brought back to council.
Okay.
So that you can join the meeting.
All right. Staff update and commissioner reports.
Everything back together here, give me 1 second. Let's first start with, the summer activity guide that was placed in front of you. It was mailed out a month ahead of schedule. We are a month ahead, so we have to get that out. A couple highlights, we are doing the 2 outdoor moves again, one at Town Park and one at Cove. We're showing migration in Town Park. I realized it was kind of ironical with geese, but we'll figure it out. I was like, I didn't think about that when I planned it. That's okay. On page 67 has all the community events that are going on from the egg hunt all the way through the concerts, including the car show and the big game dances, and even a preview for 4th of July, because it is right around the corner. Right on the corner. It feels like it is tomorrow. Page 10, 11 has kind of the summer camp preview. It has all of the activities going on this summer, which is kind of a copy of what came out of the school menus of the summer camps that went out for everybody. Again, advertising scholarships and Corte Madera Soccer Club, getting those people in the fall really who need those scholarships of notification, say, we want to help you as much as we can to play club soccer. Here's how we go about doing it, partnering with the foundation. And then the last page of the end cover has kind of the July Parks Make Life Better month. And then the back cover is all the Community Foundation Summer Concert Series, which they always do an amazing job at. And have Mark's got a great list of bands starting in June and going all the way through August up at Mankey Park. And obviously with the discussion of the expansion of Mankey Park and renovation, it'll be a big discussion topic when they're there. So the guide is out. Enrollment has gone well, and we will keep obviously advertising and pushing all the activities that are there. And they're already started working on the fall guide, which is hard to believe, but I tell people we plan 6 to 8 months ahead of time. Feels kind of weird planning a gingerbread house event in March, but that's kind of where we're at. So that is the current guide that is currently obviously out and in for everybody in Parkersburg. Second update was at the council meeting on March 19th, we kind of brought the elevated discussion of gathering place for seniors. It was a very good discussion, a very informed discussion of age friendly and how they operated in our community center, the classes they offered and the agreement and kind of the arrangement they had. Basically, Manager Adam will present kind of several options to town council. One, hey, we understand this is a big change. A couple ways we can go at it. One, the town can lease a facility and kind of run programs kind of with age friendly or themselves. 2, age friendly can kind of lease their own facility and kind of do their own thing. Or 2, some type of joint venture I think out of the discussion, it's very clear that the town council very much values the place for seniors. How we get there, it's gonna be a joint venture. That I think the town has the know and the wherewithal how to lease a space and help them and help us with programming, those spaces. Adam mentioned the one location of 645 Tamalpais, kind of just sort of a tour of a basic thing. There's many more work to do. That's just one location that's possibly out there. It was a spot that somebody identified as possibly a location. Obviously, it's not a turnkey facility. It's work that has to be done. But basically, the direction of council was, look, it's important. Keep doing research, come back with some options and kind of figuring out some, can we do A, B, C, and D? What are different options? What are different locations? And what is the cost? Knowing that senior programming is important and that our current facility at the Breakfast Community Center is limited. We are programming all activities there. And there are some challenges with having a very large space compared to a dedicated space for seniors for ball, small classes, and a gathering space. So obviously more to come. Council thought it was very important. We thank you for elevating it to project to the I'm drawing a blank on words right now. Sorry, the town council strategic plan. So it will definitely be coming back. Last couple things. Flashlight egg hunt is this Friday at Piper Park. We partner with Larkspur. Rain or shine, we're going. Unless there's lightning, we're going. So
we need volunteers.
we do need volunteers for both Friday and Saturday. Yes, have them email me directly. But 8:30, if you've never seen it, it's quite an experience. At 8:30, pitch black, headlights, and it's just kids go search for eggs in Piper Park. And then we are again planning our egg hunt here in Town Park on the Saturday at 10 a.m. We'll have photos of the bunnies inside about noon. Not supposed to rain Saturday, it might be a little wet, but it's not supposed to rain Saturday, so that's still go. Last things is we hosted the painted bin reception for the youth artists in the rec center last week. About 125, 130 people come through, which was great. It was a great opportunity to display all the youth art. So people who we hadn't judged and they just got enough of all the art that could possibly be selected to go in the painted bins with Kathy and the school. Some really, really good art this year. It's really gonna be hard to choose those top people who are gonna paint it. They really have stepped up their game. And people are really being conscious of compost and recycling, and they put a lot of work into it. So it's definitely a good thing. Part of the Lions Club did for the reception there. They provided some food and drink for the students and for the parents. But last year they held it over, I think it was a holiday weekend. They didn't get a lot of people. It was nice, one-day event. They came through. It was kind of a, hey, before we go to dinner, let's go check in and talk to all the kids. That was great. The last thing is, as Rochelle mentioned earlier, we are currently active recruiting a recreation supervisor. We have interviews for those next week. The person's going to come in and kind of take on the program areas, seniors, camps, childcare, and probably some scholarship stuff. So I kind of work on all the admin stuff. But I have the good candidates, and we'll hopefully report back next month an update. Look for someone to add to our team.
Amazing. Thank you. Commissioner reports. So Commissioner Charlie is in Los Angeles for work. So bear with me. Here we go. Here are updates from town council meetings. The March 5th meeting was the update on the Central Marin Regional Pathways Gap Closure Project and authorizations to advertise. So 100% funding because of Safe Route Program. Piper Avenue has been resurfaced, Nellen Avenue and Warnham Drive to be micro-serviced, widened and added, and buffers added. Goal is that this will be built by the summer so no school kids can use it next year. So school kids can use it next year, authorized unanimously. And then on the March 19th meeting was a discussion and possible direction regarding options to create classroom and or gathering space for town senior community. So confirmation this topic was one of the ones elevated by Parks and Rec and is in its very early stages, looking at locations that floated 645 Tamalpais Ave, 71 Casabuena Drive, 240 Camp Vista Boulevard, current town meeting location, backside of Corte Madera Center, use of portables if permitted by the district, and have something like a single family home for seniors. Pat suggested a workshop asking town realtor to look at property. Topics suggested, questions posed were, is it the town's responsibility to provide this type of space for its seniors who make up around a quarter of the population? Would it be a senior place or an intergenerational space? Would this consolidate many senior programs out there or be an additional one through Parks and Rec? Should the town partner with age-friendly Corte Madera? They have the vision ready. Town should develop its own. Encourage public-private partnership, which might open up grants. Create new space through town lease facility, and prefer approach be for an intergenerational center at a town-owned lease facility where age-friendly provides programming. those are Emily's updates. Do we have any other individual commissioner updates? Excellent. So moving on to routine and other matters. The following items do not require formal hearing, although the chair and staff will indicate why each item is on the agenda. The commission may decide to reschedule the items as public hearing. Anybody want to bring anything forward? Discussion? All right, it is April, so Sarah is up on town council meetings. If there's nothing else,
We should probably note that the next meeting
Yes.
was changed to not conflict with Passover.
correct. The next meeting is on Thursday, April 18th. Awesome. So if nothing else, we'll close this meeting. Thank you so much for your attendance and participation.